What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're here for NFL Week 6 picks and predictions. Our season total is now 50, 26, and 1 on the season, which is about a 66% win rate on the year. Last week, though, we did not have a great week. We're hoping to go to 6 and 8 on the week if Kansas City can beat Jacksonville tonight. But yeah, we were heavily leaning on the favorites last week, and there was just a lot of upsets like the 49ers over the Rams, the Titans over the Cardinals, the Patriots over the Bills. So a lot of crazy games, but excited to get into the 15 matchups this week. We have the Texans and the Vikings on bye this week. And I also like to show you guys the best pickers in the world. There's a guy here at 61 and 15 on the year, which is really, really crazy. But getting on to the first matchup here, the Eagles at the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Give me the Giants here, give me the Eagles. I feel really confident in the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to use this game as a bounce back, especially losing last week against the Broncos. The Eagles, for some reason, they haven't been performing in the second half of football games, offensively or defensively. They gave up 18 points to Denver in the fourth quarter last week, and we all know how slow they've kind of started this season, especially with all the talent they have on offense. Something that stuck out to me last week was that Saquon Barkley only ran the ball 6 times, and now you're seeing him on the injury report, so that's definitely something to keep your eye out on. But I think that Saquon, if he can play in this game, I think he's definitely a huge factor. The Giants haven't been able to stop the run all season long, so I think that would be a major factor in this game. And then you're looking at Jackson Dart. He kind of came back down to earth last week versus the Saints. It was his first road game in the NFL. And he threw 2 interceptions, and the Giants, they fumbled the ball 3 times and lost all 3 fumbles. So very sloppy game. I think the Eagles are the better team here. Give me them to win away in New York. Then you have the Broncos at 3-2 at the Jets 0-5. This is another international game in London again this season. The Broncos are a 3-2 team. They could easily be 4-1, maybe even 5-0 at this point in the season. But I expect them to win for sure. I feel very confident in this pick as well. I was really impressed with their win last week versus the Eagles. I think their defensive line is one of the better units in the NFL this year. And I think that, Justin Fields is really going to struggle with that in this game. And the Broncos, I do still think they have some vulnerabilities on defense. I don't think it's perfect. I think their secondary can be attacked a little bit with guys like Riley Moss. But overall, I really do like it. Their defense overall. I like Garrett Wilson for the Jets, but I think that he can only do so much. So give me the Broncos to win that game. The Jets have been just another sloppy football team. A lot of turnovers, a lot of penalties for them as well. We go to the Cardinals at 2-3 at the Colts 4-1. The Cardinals are coming off one of their worst defeats in recent memory. They didn't score at all in the second half against the Titans, and that's a big reason they lost that game. To me, a big factor in this game is the Colts. This is going to be their second consecutive home game, and their home field advantage has been really good, especially as of late with how good they're playing. Daniel Jones is playing fantastic. Jonathan Taylor is playing fantastic as well. And even this defense for the Colts, I feel like is a little bit underrated. They haven't let a team score more than 20 points other than the Broncos or the Rams all season. So I think that that's pretty good for the Colts. And I think in this matchup, the Cardinals are going to have to score at least 23, 24 points to beat this Colts team. And I don't know if they're able to do that, especially losing James Conner early in the season. Then you have the Chargers at 3-2 at the Miami Dolphins 1-4. Both of these teams are kind of falling apart. Obviously, the Dolphins lost Tyreek Hill, and that was a big injury for them. And they blew a 17-point lead to the Carolina Panthers last week. The Chargers are falling apart, in terms of injuries as well, losing most of their starters on the offensive line, and then now Amarian Hampton, their starting running back. So, this game is really going to have to fall on the shoulders of Justin Herbert, even with this bad offensive line, but I think he can do it. The Dolphins really haven't impressed me. I think Tyreek Hill, I think that injury is a very massive injury that they haven't really gotten over. And then you see the game against last week versus the Carolina Panthers. They really couldn't run the ball. So I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball all that effectively in this game. The Chargers have kind of had a tough time against mobile quarterbacks. in Jackson Dart and Jaden Daniels, but I don't think Tua is all that mobile. I think he's going to be kind of staying in the pocket, and I don't think he's going to be much of a threat on the ground. So give me the Chargers there, but that's going to be a very tough game for them to win, but we'll see what happens there. Then we have the Browns at 1-4 at the Steelers 3-1. The Browns defense has been fantastic all season long, but to me, there's really still not a lot of great quarterback play. I'm glad that they got rid of Joe Flacco, but I thought last week Gabrielle didn't play all that great. I thought there was a lot of checkdowns. I didn't see much trust in the coaching staff. And I'm looking at the Steelers here. They're going to be coming off a bye, and they're at home for this game. AFC North matchups are definitely tricky because they know each other well. And I think this could be a potential trap game where the Browns actually end up winning this game. But I just have more faith in the Steelers to score more points. I think that the Steelers also have a formidable defense with some experienced veterans here who I think could, have a good game here against this rookie quarterback. So give me the Steelers to win that game. Then we have the Cowboys at 2-1 at the Panthers 2-3. I went back and forth with this game. But to me, Dak is playing some of the best football that we've seen him play in a long time. I saw the Cowboys actually get some pressure on defense last week versus the Jets. I know it's just the Jets, but the Cowboys defense seems to be getting a little bit better as the season progresses. The Panthers did win against the Dolphins, but it took Rico Dowdle rushing for 200 yards for them to win that game. And I don't expect him to be rushing it that well here. You are looking, though, here, it is the second consecutive game for Dallas on the road and the second consecutive game for the Panthers at home. So I think that is a factor. And I don't love picking the Cowboys on the road at all. So this matchup I feel very unsure about. I really could see the Panthers upsetting, but I'm going to have to stick with the Cowboys in this one. Then we have Seattle at 3-2 at Jacksonville. I think that Jacksonville is actually going to upset here and win the game. Jacksonville's defenses have been pretty good this season. Their offensive line has also held up pretty nicely for them. I just got to see Trevor Lawrence play a bit better, but I think he does in this matchup. It's a home game for Jacksonville. Darnold, I love the way he's been playing this season, but the Seahawks are a little bit banged up, a little bit more so than Jacksonville, so give me them to upset in that one. Then we have the Rams at 3-2 at the Ravens 1-4. The Ravens are dealing with a lot of injuries. Their defense has been disappointing all season long. I'm not sure if they're going to be trying in this game, if Lamar Jackson's going to be playing. Their schedule really does lighten up after this game with games to the Bears, Dolphins, Jets, Bengals. So I think that's where they're going to start to stack their wins. But against this Rams team, I think it's going to be tough because they pass the ball really well. And that's one of the things that the Ravens struggle with is, defending the pass. So give me the Rams to win that game against the Ravens. There's nothing the Ravens have done as of recent to make me want to pick them. Then you have the Patriots at 3-2 at the Saints 1-4. I'm really high on the Patriots right now. I think that, Vrabel has really gotten this team in a good place, and I think it took a minute for everybody to be on the same page. But I think everybody is at this point. The Patriots have really done a good job of surrounding May with good receivers, a good O-line, and obviously the good coaching. So I think that they're going to be able to win this game here versus the Saints. I know the Saints beat the Giants last week, but I think that it's a different story here with Drake May at the quarterback position. Jackson Dart is a good quarterback, but I think that he is still very young, and that was his first game on the road against, an opponent. So with no Malik Neighbors, I think the Patriots here with Stephon Diggs should take care of business. I would be really surprised if they didn't win. But I do have to say the Saints' home field advantage is pretty decent. Then we have the Titans at 1-4 at the Raiders 1-4. Give me the Raiders to win this game at home. I think they're the better coached team with Pete Carroll. I think they have a more veteran team compared to the Titans, who feel like a younger team. They won last week, the Titans did, versus Arizona. It was a lucky win, but I kind of doubt that they are able to string together wins here. I like Tony Pollard, and I think Cam Ward is going to be decent, but there's not a lot of receiver talent on this team. The coaching is not that great. The defense isn't that great. So give me the Raiders here. I think they squeak it out, especially in Las Vegas. Then we have the 49ers at 4-1 at the Buccaneers 4-1. The 49ers in this matchup have 3 days rest on the Buccaneers. but the Buccaneers are at home here, of course. Just to me, I think it comes down to the Bucs outscoring the 49ers. I think that Evans is going to be back for this one as well. So the Buccaneers are getting a little bit healthier. And the 49ers, I think they're kind of going back and forth with Mac Jones right now. And Brock Purdy. So I don't know. It's kind of an awkward situation. And their defense hasn't been playing that great. The loss of Nick Bosa is really affecting them, I think, as well. Then we have the Bengals at 2-3 at the Packers 2-1-1. Give me the Packers to win that one. Without Joe Burrow for the Bengals, there's not really a lot I can do there. The Bengals defense doesn't look great either. They can't really get a pass rush. And I think the Packers are just able to take care of business, especially at home. Then you have the Lions at the Chiefs. This is a game where I think the Chiefs win it. I know the Lions have looked good, but the Chiefs getting Xavier Worthy back has been a big addition for this team. Being at home for this game is also a big advantage for the Chiefs. I think the Lions are going to make it a close game, but I'm just going to take the experience of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in this one. I think there's great value at that pick, with the Chiefs. Only 30% of people picking them at the moment. I believe that's all the games for this week. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back next week to make more picks, but I'll see you guys later.